Hey everyone, welcome to episode 26 of the Caught by Happy podcast. We are plowing through the month of April. All the days are just running together. Don't know what day of the week it is. Don't know when we're going to get back to whatever the hell we were calling normal. But this is going all right. This is fine. Everything's fine. I wouldn't say things are getting easier, with staying at home all the time, trying to keep the kids in line. It's taking a toll on my patience. But although it's not getting easier, it is feeling a little bit like normal somehow. In other words, I wake up in the morning knowing pretty much what the day is going to bring from a family management standpoint. I know the kids are going to fight each other. I know I'm changing at least 4 poopy diapers. I know I'm going to be making lunches that the kids are only going to complain about and need a quarter of. I know that we're working in shifts, and I know that we're doing the best we can given the circumstances. And I'm sure you all are doing the best you can as well. So keep it up. I don't know if it's going to get easier, but you're doing a great job. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but you are. So keep it up. You're doing great. Today on the show, I'm talking to Aaron Spicer. Aaron is a photographer out of Roanoke, Virginia. I should say he's newly out of Roanoke, Virginia, having recently moved there. And not a great time to be a wedding or portrait photographer. So we're going to talk to him about how he's dealing with not having a whole lot of business right now. It's tough out there for all those self-employed creatives. But we're also going to talk about how he got into photography in the first place, some of the amazing work he's done. In fact, a company I used to work for in my department, we used to hire him to come in and take some food photographs about once a month. So he and I became friends after working dozens of shoots together. He's an interesting dude with tons of hobbies. He fly fishes, he cooks, he likes to run marathons, or at least try to. And this conversation was a little bit all over the place, giving you a little warning here. I didn't really plan anything. We just kind of had a conversation. I hadn't talked to him in a while, so what you're going to hear is pretty much just he and I catching up, which, sometimes I think makes for a more engaging podcast, but you can be the judge of that. Have you taken advantage of the Kindle Unlimited program yet? If you've got time to read some books this spring, and I have a sneaking suspicion that you do, you need to take advantage of this. It's unlimited reading, unlimited listening, any device. So we're talking iPad, iPhone, Kindle, any of those things. It's millions of books, magazines, audiobooks. They're all available for you to consume. Sign up using the link in my show notes, and you're going to get 2 whole months completely free, 2 months of unlimited content. You can't beat that. Links in the show notes, and using that link to sign up helps support this podcast. So thank you. And thank you for checking out the other links in my show notes as well. All commissions go directly into this podcast and some of my other podcast projects that gets them off the ground and into your ears. Last week in the intro to the podcast, I mentioned I was going to be taking a break for a little bit. I still might be doing that. This week's episode wasn't really planned out. Like I said, I just kind of texted Aaron and asked if he could record something, and he happened to have the time. I don't know if I'm going to have the time over the course of the next few months to record and edit, but I'm going to try to get these done as they come. So be on the lookout for new episodes, but don't worry if I'm not posting as frequently as we head into May. I'm sure you're not going to be worried anyways, but you can always go back and binge all the Caught by Happy episodes or discover ones you never got the chance to listen to. There's some pretty good ones in there. You might find something you like. And if you do like it, please head over to the Caught by Happy page on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave me a rating and a written review if they allow that sort of thing on your platform. I read everyone. It just helps me make better content for you. All right, let's go get to Aaron. He's a great guy. He's a funny guy. Loves his food in the outdoors and being ultra extra with the lighting set up for a Zoom call. But, I guess that's what photographers do. So here's my chat with Aaron Spicer.
Hey,
look at that fancy shirt.
I did it just for cruise ship Bobby.
What's going on, man?
Not a lot. What's going on with you?
Oh, trying times.
It's a sizable closet.
Well, I saw that you were lighting this properly. I decided to sit in a corner without proper lighting instead of cramped in the closet. The closet doesn't have air vents in there. It gets a little hot if I have to shut the door. So I'm in my bedroom. But my wife made me turn the desk around so you wouldn't see the mess.
I'll be honest, I did some zhuzhing today as well, so it's all good.
Yeah. How you holding up?
Yeah, doing all right. Yesterday was a bad day. but on the whole, doing pretty well.
Why was it a bad day?
We lost power for most of the day, and I was freaking out that we were going to lose all our groceries that I had stocked up. And I think it just kind of got to me that the power was off for about like 7-8 hours, something like that. Instead of just going outside and doing something like I would normally do, I just kind of like sat on my couch and wallowed in self pity.
Yeah, you guys had some pretty bad storms yesterday morning.
Yeah, I mean, I think what got us was we've got some old trees in the neighborhood, and the ground got soaked, and one just kind of fell over right around noon. It wasn't like a direct result of the storm, but
Wow.
just kind of came down a little bit later.
Well, how you doing with the photography business when nobody's exactly hiring photographers at this time?
Well, it's a great time to reflect and revamp your social media presence, none of which I'm really doing.
So you're saying it sucks.
It's not great. It is not great. I'm just kind of have been in triage mode for a lot of this. Some of it I just kind of have to wait and see. For those that are listening in, about half of my business is weddings, and the most popular time of year is April, May,
Yeah,
June.
right now.
In addition to September and October. And so I had probably at this point 6 or 7 weddings that I've had to kind of shuffle around and reschedule.
Yeah.
Luckily, people have been pretty good about getting a hold of me, and all the different vendors are working together and stuff like that. So I've been able to reschedule everybody, but some of them are rescheduled to July. Some of them, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of bracing for the worst and seeing, are we going to do this rigmarole of rescheduling.
Are some people just going to go ahead and have their weddings anyways and maybe not have such a huge deal?
The last wedding I shot was early March. I think it was like the day before Governor Northam put down the edict. They knew it was coming. They knew that it was gonna that the limit had gone from 40 to 20 to whatever. So they had pared it
People in a
down.
gathering.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
had pared their wedding down considerably. I mean, it ended up being 10 people anyway, but it was in a tiny little church, and it felt weird. It was strange. It ended up being a really lovely, I think, story for them, and they were really touched by everybody who could be there and stuff like that. But it still kind of felt a little harried,
Yeah.
especially in the time leading up to it.
Well, I wonder if those like huge gatherings getting pared down to very intimate gatherings, I wonder if that's going to be like something that people will want to do moving forward.
Yeah, the thing I'm worried about is that happening down the line, for most of the people that I already have on the books. I mean, they've already put down deposits on catering and deposits on venues and stuff like that. So most people that have already set a date for their wedding feel like they're forging ahead and going forward with their plans. But I think, I mean, this is unprecedented, but I was doing this back in 2008 when we had the recession then, and I think we were a little insulated because at the time I was in DC, and DC didn't get hit as hard. But the guest list started to shrink a little bit. You go from 200 people weddings to 150 to 125, something like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at probably 2 years worth of recovery from this in terms of recuperating.
Lost money and all that stuff.
Freaking out. Just there's this domino effect because like I was talking about earlier with the rescheduling. One of my September weddings has already rescheduled their wedding to 2021 just to be completely on the safe side. So I'm happy to do that for them, but in the end, that also eats up a date in 2021 that I could have been shooting another wedding at.
Right. Yeah. So. Sure. You apply for all those small business loans and stuff like that you need to get by.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the ones that match the best. I am pretty lucky that my wife's still working, so I'm gonna kind of try not to get into anything that I'm going to have to repay a lot of.
I thought you didn't have to pay it back.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple different programs, so definitely just gonna pick and choose.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. How is your wife doing? How's Lisa doing?
She is doing as well as can be expected. So it's it's just all bizarre, and for us in particular, I know but we moved across the state by choice at the end of December, at the end of 2019. So we were really just kind of getting our feet under us, and on top of that, she started an entirely new position in the same field, but it was just kind of a whirlwind. And so she's, and as I'm sure Jessica is, trying to figure out what education looks like
Yeah.
in this digital world. In a lot of ways, there's stuff she likes, there's stuff that she hopes that kind of carries on.
It's crazy, man. And it seems like the counties or the districts are doing things their own way. Like there's no set state standard. Like does Lisa work for the state, for the Commonwealth?
City of Roanoke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like there's like a state standard for like how they should be teaching. And every county is just kind of doing whatever they think is best, and it varies.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the whole states' rights versus you really drink it on White Claw.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna bring it up. I'm drinking a White Claw. I was gonna bring it up because I wanted to talk to you about your non-drinking. It's been, you said 500 days since you.
500 days today, yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll just go right into that since we started talking about it.
All right.
Why did you decide to stop drinking? Because when we haven't even started talking about how we know each other, but we'll get back into that. But when we were first kind of working together, you would talk about having a sip of bourbon here and there, and
I mean, it was more than here or there. I thoroughly enjoyed a sip of bourbon. And I think at some point I probably still will. There was a number of things going on for me. The biggest one was that I've been getting more and more into running, biking, things like that. And I started to set some serious goals for myself. They're nothing that anybody would really be impressed with. But to me, it was important, and it just kind of made sense to me to cut it out. And I thought, for a number of years, I had done maybe a month without alcohol or 2 months without alcohol, stuff like that. And the big one was that I was training for a marathon, and I had really kind of set a little bit of a lofty marathon goal for myself. So I thought, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it to the extreme and really give it a year. And so I said, yeah, I'll give alcohol up for a year and see where that takes me. And ended up getting hurt and not doing the marathon.
right.
And so it's kind of one of those things where I still have that goal in mind. They say after 30 days, your habits are entirely changed. But I found after 6 months, your mindset is completely changed. I don't miss it. I don't really think about it. I don't want to make it sound like every night I was reaching for a glass of bourbon, but it's just, I think we get into these habits where we say, cook a nice dinner, you're going to have a glass of wine, stuff like that. And the other side of the coin was that I had felt, well, I think, and a lot of people are feeling this way at the same time, is that it's kind of being shoved down our throats by advertisers and social media and stuff like that. It's kind of become this expectation that we're all functioning alcoholics, and just kind of it's just
I mean, it's just amplified by the current situation too. I mean, geez, at the end of the day, after trying to work and watch your kids and teach your kids, it's like time for a White Claw.
Is that keto?
Alcohol is really not keto, but I call it dirty keto. So I don't mean to like rub alcohol out. If you're not.
No, I mean,
I normally drink the pure White Claw because it's got 0 carbs and 0 flavor. Tastes like pure hand sanitizer.
Oh, good. Is pure White Claw? Is that kind of like does it taste like moonshine? Just like,
no, it tastes like vodka and soda.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, you're a big food guy, so the glass of wine with dinner and stuff like that. And do you miss that part of it?
Every once in a while, I'll think, this would be nice to have a glass of wine with. But I think That's another thing that we've been kind of fed is
Yeah.
that, oh, this is definitely going to make your so and so taste better. And for me, when you talk about happiness, cooking is definitely been one of the things that's kept me sane during this quarantine. And I think a lot of other people are experiencing that same thing. I have not jumped on the sourdough bandwagon yet, but
Yeah.
I'm doing little Instagram stories based around my nightly cooking, and it's just a way to stay creative in a different fashion.
Yeah.
And for me, cooking has also always been just kind of about nourishing and providing for friends and family and stuff like that. So, yeah,
Yeah, I've been watching your Instagram stuff, and I see you go out foraging and getting all those mushrooms and stuff. I mean, who knows what you're bringing home and making, but it's like, it looks really cool.
yeah,
I mean, your content has shifted. You are like, I mean, you've always been, another thing that you've always been is an outdoorsy guy,
yeah.
fisherman, hiker. You love that stuff. Since you're not really shooting weddings right now, you're shooting a lot of the outdoors and your new city that you're exploring, and it looks awesome. It really does.
Well, that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that, in terms of my happiness, you kind of caught us at this really, really strange time. We made this move really to have a real lifestyle change, just to kind of get out of the grind of Northern Virginia and get to some place that we really loved. Neither one of us had ever chosen where we were going to live. It's always been for, we just landed here, or this is where I ended up after college, first job, stuff like that. And so we planned this move to Roanoke for a couple of years, and it ended up happening probably about 7-8 months early, just because a job opened up for my wife. So it was a little rushed. Couldn't be happier to be here. Like you said, part of the joy of this place is the outdoors, and I'm really taking full advantage of it. I
Yeah.
feel a little guilty posting a lot of that stuff to social media right now. It's one of those weird kind of, like, I want to support the whole stay home movement, but I'm going to these places where I don't see a single soul. But I think that's a thing that we need to consider in this age is the social responsibility of what our posts are putting out to the world. I mean, in essence, if we're using social media to grow our brands and connect with other people, basically what I'm saying is, look at this lifestyle, you should go out and do this lifestyle too, or things like that. So I don't want to
Well,
give people a wrong impression and say, hey, go out and be irresponsible. We've had a lot of problems in Roanoke, and I know a lot of other cities are having these same problems with overcrowding at greenways and people, congregating in parks. We had to shut down McAfee's Knob, and Shenandoah National Park is just shut down, and it's just, there's plenty of places out there. If you really kind of look for them, people just tend to gravitate towards the popular places.
so where are you going? Just to explore little hidden gems?
Yeah, I mean, anywhere that's kind of off the beaten path public land. One of the things to look for is like wildlife management access areas. There's a few of those around here. Typically, that's where somebody would go if they want to go hunting or fishing or stuff like that. You do need to check in with the Department of Game and see if you need a permit or whatever. Those are some that I look for. The nature preserves, the Nature Conservancy has a few properties out here, and for whatever reason, they're just not they don't show up as much in searches and blogs about popular spots to go hiking and whatnot. So they tend to be a little less crowded. But really, I think the big thing is just going at off times.
I mean, people want to get outside, so
Of course,
they have to find ways of doing it responsibly.
yeah.
Going with either just going alone or going with their immediate family. So I think that's good advice for people how to find places that they can go and enjoy the outdoors.
There's a site, I'll give them a little plug, that my wife and I use. It's called Hiking Upward, and it's such a great resource. I think it started just with this one guy who he and his family went hiking all the time, but now they've got a bunch of different correspondents, and it covers most of Virginia, some of North Carolina, West Virginia, and they've got all sorts of different hikes, and they're all laid out kind of on a map, and you can sort them by grids. And actually, one of the things that you can filter is solitude. And naturally, you're going to get more solitude in a place that has less of the, like, waterfalls or the
Yeah.
peak views or stuff like that. But if your goal is just to get out into nature, then there's definitely plenty of places where you can go and be completely alone.
I saw a post the other day that you put up there with a bear coming down the side of a hill. Man,
That's been a lifelong goal, is to meet a bear in the wild.
yeah.
I won.
Yeah. Were you freaked out? I mean, that's always been a fear of mine whenever I've been out camping or whatever. It's just like I'm just waiting to run into a bear.
I wasn't that scared, and so I was out foraging for mushrooms, and
Such a hippie.
I I had found a few, and so I was like, I had already slowed down, and I was just kind of like going through this area methodically, so I wasn't making any noise at all. And then all of a sudden, I heard this commotion coming down the side of the hill, and it was about, I don't know, 50 yards away. So I knew I had some good distance, so I could just kind of stop and wait and see what was coming down. And I could see that it was a bear, but I could also see that it was maybe a yearling, maybe 2 years old. So I knew it was old enough that it wasn't mama bear hanging around, but also that it wasn't, I mean, he wasn't.
He looked at you and ran off.
He just looked and just took right off, right
Yeah.
back up the hill. He waited at the top of the hill, did a few looks at me, and then just kind of meandered off.
Man.
But yeah, black bears, from everything I've read, aren't that big of a threat. So that was the first. The first one that I had encountered, like legitimately in the wild. I've seen plenty of other bears, like on the parkway and stuff like that, from a car or whatever, but that doesn't count.
All right, let's get into how we know each other. I mean, we don't have to go like super deep into it, but
we can go as deep as you want.
We can go as deep as we want. Yeah, who cares? Nobody's listening to this anyway. So we met back in what, 2013? I think it was 2013.
I believe that's right. I do not have a good head for dates.
Yeah, man, you did some really great work for the old appliance company that I used to work for. Are we saying the name? I think people know by now.
I mean, I don't. It's up to you. I never worked for them. Are you hoping to get a job back one day?
Oh, I think that ship has sailed.
All right. Well, then
No, I used to work at Hamilton Beach, the appliance company, and I was in charge of social and some of the digital content stuff that we would do. And obviously, when you're an appliance company, you can't take pictures of appliances all day. You got to take pictures of the food. And who better to come in and take pictures of the food than you? You came in through a coworker who was a friend of yours.
I did.
And she was also the food stylist.
Yeah.
At the time, and would do these ridiculously elaborate settings. I mean, we made a whole bake shop once in the kitchen of Hamilton Beach. You just did like awesome stuff for us.
The bake shop was a thing. The one that still cracks me up was when we tried to create the mock living room for a football game.
Yeah,
that was.
You can see my crotch, sitting on the couch.
That was when, maybe we took that a little bit too far.
We took everything too far in like 2013 and 2014. Everything was taken way too far.
I mean, there was definitely a curve where it kind of ramped up pretty quickly. But
But the other thing is that we didn't have. There was nothing. Like, we were creating everything.
Yeah.
For immediate use. There was no back then it was just kind of like, we need some kind of pictures. Can you take some pictures?
I kind of thrive on that type of stuff. Much to my wife's chagrin, I'm not a huge planner. I'm kind of a real good technician, and I like fidgeting with lighting and all that other stuff, as you can tell by the giant softbox that I sent you a picture of that I set up for our Zoom meeting. I mean, everybody did the best job they were doing, but there were times when I'd get an inspiration sheet like the day before, or like I wouldn't get it at all, and it was just like, I'm like, I thrive on that kind of stuff. Let's just show up and let's figure it out in the process. It definitely made for some long days a couple of times.
Back in the early days.
Oh yeah. And I know we pushed our limits and tested some people's patience, but I think in the end it was worth it. It was fun.
I mean, the other thing is that we were doing this in an office building. Like, this wasn't set up for photography at all. But
no,
but the results, I mean, are you proud of the results? I'm really proud of how they turned out. All that work that we put in every month.
Yeah, no, I think they were great. They're still some of my favorite photos for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are some turds in there, but
I mean, you want to list them? We can. I could send you
no,
some.
I know they're burned into my mind.
In all of my commercial jobs, there's this kind of void where you send these photos off, and the proof that you're doing all right is that you keep getting hired. You don't
Yeah,
get a lot of feedback, you don't get a lot of praise or criticism or whatever. It's just like, okay, thanks for the photos.
yeah,
Here's next month's date, that type of thing. And so it feels good to keep getting hired, but at the same time, it's like, I wonder if
yeah.
they really like what did they think of that one photo?
Well, I mean,
How'd they like those stuffed peppers?
yeah, yeah. Nobody liked those.
Nobody
Maybe
like.
one person did, but no, no. I mean, we worked with you until what 2018, until everything just got cut. I guess it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
early 2018, mid 2018, when you started coming upstairs and doing the shoots.
That was tough. That room in
Yeah,
particular was tough.
honestly, photo shoot days were my favorite of my entire time at Hamilton Beach. Those were my favorite memories because we just got to mess around and shoot the shit and
And
have
eat a
a
lot of good food.
we ate a ton of good food. I mean, we learned a lot about the people that I worked with. Like, we
Yeah,
never had we didn't have like those kind of conversations outside of photo shoot days, like because the rest of the time we were
yeah.
working.
It's
And
interesting that you say that because I had this weird experience of kind of being the outsider, of coming in and being the only one that doesn't work in that building. So there's already this kind of, there's a bit of shared camaraderie there already. But having done it for 5 years, it really kind of felt like a family. So it was fun.
it was fun. And I got to say, back, Christelle, back in the day, she did a really great job with the styling. I thought. I mean, we never reached that kind of height again after she
Yeah.
was gone, but Sarah was like on top of things. Sarah was on it, like,
Yeah.
and her and I on photo shoot days were like complete opposites. But I mean, she kind of felt like a really like younger sister to me, where we would just kind of go back and
Yeah.
forth and kind of fight each other, but in a fun way.
Yeah.
And I miss that a lot.
Yeah, now that you're kind of out on your own, how are you? What are you liking? What are you not liking?
Well, it would be different if this whole thing wasn't going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Because right now it's really hard to get new business when nobody's doing anything new. They're all kind of maintaining and treading water right now.
Yeah,
So, I mean, my goals are kind of just like also to maintain and do what I gotta do, but also let's see what else is out there. And if I got to go back to the working world to collect a paycheck and then, work on my business as a side hustle until it's ready to go, then that's what I'm gonna do.
yeah. I mean, I think there are just so many creatives in that same position right now. I mean, people like me who have been doing it for 15 years, and people who are just starting out. It is nuts right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
And
looking at Kroger down the street, being like, yeah, maybe I'll get a job at Kroger for a
I
little
know.
while.
I'm looking at Amazon drivers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Even Uber or something like I don't well, Uber's not really running, but Uber Eats or like Grubhub, those kind of drivers. Like I could do that in the evenings. Why not? Make some money.
I thought about that. If you, that's just,
I know
yeah,
exactly. You run the risk, but I mean,
yeah, of course.
there's people out there doing it, so
Terrifying.
it's got to get done. Anyways, we didn't really even talk about how you got into doing what you do.
Photography.
Yeah. I don't even know where you grew up. You said you grew up in DC.
Well, I mean, I tell people I grew up in DC, but I grew up in good old Woodbridge, Virginia, which
Yeah.
is a suburb of DC, probably about 30 miles as the crow flies, or 2.5 hours on 95.
Right. And you went to college at William and Mary.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
So I started doing photography as a serious hobby in high school. I had a camera around me from the time I was maybe 5. My mom gave me her old little Kodak disc film camera. I had a Fisher Price 120. That was pretty awesome. And it was just something that was always around. My dad was big into photography. My uncle was / is still a working photojournalist, kind of more on the author side now, but
Yeah.
and my grandfather was this incredible family documentarian. It definitely fits the stereotype of the patriarch with the camera doing all the, like,
Yeah.
shuffling people together at the landmarks and things like that.
So
But
he was never in any of the photos or the videos. It was always
actually, somehow he managed to be in some of them.
yeah.
When he passed a few years ago, I inherited his entire slide collection, and my mom kind of asked me if I wanted it, and I said yeah. I didn't, without really knowing what I was getting into. But it's just like tray after tray after tray after tray after tray of these slides, and every single tray has handwritten notes about what every single slide is.
I love that.
I love it too. It makes me feel so inept, and
Yeah.
if I could, like, pan this camera over and you could take a look at all my hard drives and the cords and everything that's scattered around my desk, and hard drives that should be labeled that aren't, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's kind of overwhelming.
Well, I was talking when I talked to Matt Paxton a few weeks back on the podcast about, is this going to take us back into those old types of habits of writing letters and documenting things? And we talked
Right.
a little bit about that kind of documentation of just like writing notes to yourself that weren't ever really meant to be
Yeah.
looked at. It's just kind of like documentation.
Yeah. It,
And right now we're going through some shit with my father-in-law. He's really sick and he
yeah.
doesn't have much time left. And we're going through all the documentation that they used to do in the 80s and 90s that we don't even do now. Only 20 years ago that they don't do anymore. And we were talking about, like, what's it going to be like for our kids? Like there's not a record of this kind of stuff, the tangible record that they can go pick up and look at.
And they're gonna have to look through our Facebook feeds.
And it's all going to be locked down because we're going to make the decision not to let anybody see it.
Right.
Private.
There are a few companies that these social companies that make annual books out of your social media timelines. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you've seen any of these.
No, I haven't.
I don't know any of the names, but I know a few people who actually get them done every single year just for that very reason.
Really?
The company basically just goes through and just prints off your Facebook feed, creates a little book. I think you can go in and kind of tinker with it if you want and do a little curating, but some people just kind of hit print and get the whole year.
Well, I think I'm going to make it a goal for myself to try to be a little bit more intentional about writing things down, or like having paper copies of something that I would like to have.
Yeah.
Not so much, every photo on my camera roll, but like the good ones.
Yeah, we keep talking about this, especially having just purchased a house. It's 20 years ago was the promise of the paperless age, and
Mm-hmm.
some things are, and some things you're still needlessly printing off page after page after page that's shoved into a filing cabinet somewhere that I'll never look at again. We need to find some kind of happy medium. One of my biggest fears in life is having sent off these wedding memories to people on a digital device, a USB drive or whatever, and
Yeah.
that those memories just get lost, or
Sure. That-
sit on a hard drive somewhere for
Yep.
years before the hard drive dies, stuff like that.
That's my wedding.
Yeah.
My wedding, our hard drive died before I had the chance to make backups of everything. We had the professional photos and everything kind of done, but then there was a tons of like photos that people sent us, or like, what was it, Snapfish albums at the time,
Yeah.
like
Right.
that I downloaded and we had on the computer, and we just never had the chance to print out, and then it died and we lost those forever. And even now, the photos that we did get are on DVD, and like, who's got a DVD player anymore? Or like a CD drive,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do, but
but you're a photographer.
only
The
because
thing is like,
there's always somebody,
yeah,
just like there's always somebody who asks for you to fax something. There's always somebody who wants like a DVD of
yeah,
something, or usually they have an AOL.com email address, but
yeah. But
you know,
sometimes a shoebox under the bed that's got a bunch of photos in it, it just means so much more than popping in the DVD and looking at it on TV or looking at it on
yeah.
the screen.
Yeah, and talking about my grandpa again, he used to sit us down after every trip they took, and he had the slide projector, and
Mhm.
we'd sit through the slideshow just in that ka-chunk of the slideshow projector moving forward is just imprinted into my brain. And you definitely don't appreciate it at that time, but thinking back to it now, it's like, yeah, that was pretty special.
Yeah. So, did you ever do like a real job before you became a legit photographer?
I did 7 years of a real job.
Oh yeah. What'd you
So my
do?
story was immediately after college, I got a job as a high school English teacher, and that's where I met my wife. And it was kind of weird. I had spent all of college keeping photography up as a hobby. So I was still doing photography. I was messing around, taking portraits of my friends and sporting events, stuff like that. And then I started teaching because my degree was in English. At the same time, it just so happened that my uncle was getting married. He wanted a photographer for his wedding, and he wasn't going to pay anybody. So that same year that I started teaching, I started doing wedding photography. Had no idea what I was doing. Did everything absolutely the wrong way. Luckily, they liked the photos, and it just kind of started slowly building from there. I spent the first couple years of my teaching career just doing stuff on the side in the wedding in the summer and weekends and stuff like that. But then about probably 2008, it really started to pick up. I started hitting some advertising channels pretty hard, got a more legitimate website. I wish I had taken screenshots of all my old websites. It would be quite the humbling.
Oh, I bet they exist
membership.
on the Wayback Machine.
Oh, I'm sure they better. So that was 2008, and then 2009
Did you have the goal
was,
back then, like you're gonna go on your own and quit being a teacher?
yeah, I hated teaching. Well, I love teaching. I hated being a teacher. Just all the BS that goes along with it. The kids are always great. It's the adults that are just kind of a nightmare.
Hmm.
All the bureaucracy stuff like that.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I mess around with my wife and tell her I'm going to start teaching again and come work at her school. And absolutely not, unless you want to get divorced.
She knew you back then. She didn't like you.
She knew me back then, and she knows there is no way. I think I ended up being really kind of unhealthy in that job. Just there were a whole host of things going on. I was just, by the time 2009 rolled around, I had two full-time jobs. 2009 was really kind of the year where I was like, this is either going to happen or it's not. And I had really kind of done a couple things well in the wedding photography world, and I was picking up traction. I had a lot of good word of mouth going. I was also foolishly underpricing myself. By the time, I was just so thirsty and so just kind of craving to prove to myself that I could do this full time.
Yeah.
And so that 2009, I photographed 40 weddings, which is just an insane number of weddings. It's way too many. Every wedding you shoot is probably about 40-50 hours worth of work. And there's just a whole, you talk about DVDs. This was back in the day. I was also trying to do things on the cheap. So I was paranoid about losing anyone's memories. And I still am, but I was insistent upon making like triple redundant backups of everything. And there were times, if you're doing 40 weddings a year, the problem is those weddings aren't spread evenly out. They're all happening at the popular times. So there would be times when I have 2 weddings in a weekend or something like that. And so I'd come home on a Saturday night and I'd spend all night burning DVDs of all of the raw images that I had taken that night. I'd have them on the hard drive, and then I'd burn a copy onto DVDs just so that I could have the peace of mind to go into that wedding the next day and know that I wasn't gonna lose any images. And knock on wood, I never did, but it was just kind of a nerve-wracking time.
And you were underpricing yourself.
And I was underpricing myself. There was a whole host of stuff going on. One of the things that's going on right now is it's both the best and the worst time to be a photographer. There's zero barrier to entry. There's really no consolidated place where you can go and have a path set out for you, which is freeing for some people, but it's also, if you're not willing to ask for help, if you're not willing to do that research and take the time to kind of find out the right way to do things, you end up reinventing the wheel 8 million times, which is exactly what I did. So yeah, I mean, when you're doing that volume, you really learn a lot about how to shoot and run the day to day and things like that. But you're also not really growing. You're not thinking about.
There's no time because you're too busy.
There's literally no time.
Everything.
You're just acting. You're just
Yeah.
taking the photos, processing the photos, and delivering the photos.
Well, that goes into all the hours of experience that you need.
Yeah,
Then one day you wake up and you say, "Wait a minute, if I did 20 weddings and I doubled my price," and all of a sudden you got that much more experience under your belt, and the photos have probably gotten better and better as time went on.
Yeah, and that is, I probably got my 10,000 hours of experience just in that 1 year.
So you were doing weddings pretty much in the beginning.
Almost exclusively. I do weddings, engagements, and whatever kind of random portraits people wanted to do.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't until about 2010 or 11 that I started getting into more kind of editorial work. And that's where the food stuff started coming in. I started working for Northern Virginia Magazine. Of all things, I answered their ad on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And
well, who didn't answer ads on Craigslist in 2011?
I have no idea, man. I mean, it was insane. I spent a lot of time scouring Craigslist for random gigs. Does a place like that even exist? I know Craigslist still exists, but I mean, is there a hub like that anymore?
I don't think there's such a free for all like that anymore. I mean, now it's very niche-y.
Yeah. So they hired me to do editorial portraits. Half of it's interesting, half of it's just advertising portraits. It's basically, a doctor buys an ad and wants a new headshot to go with that ad, stuff like that. But I knew that they did restaurant reviews, and so I kind of, took it upon myself to create a little portfolio of food and say, hey, let me do a few of these. And they agreed. And that's kind of when, at the same time, that I kind of got linked up with Christelle as well.
Yeah. So you had more food to add to your portfolio.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you been doing a lot of food since then, or did you at the time?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of spotty. It just depends on, who finds me. Actually, Pat referred me to one of the food nutrition programs on the campus of Virginia Tech. And we've been doing food photography with them for probably about 3 or 4 years now.
Oh,
so
good.
I do at least once a semester, go down there, and their aim is to kind of revamp their offerings and make healthy food look more attractive, more appealing to sometimes kind of low income.
So you're trying to give that food appetite appeal.
We are doing our best. Well, so the interesting thing about that particular assignment is that, this is going to sound horribly judgmental, it's the food nutrition students who do all the cooking and the plating. And so basically a plate of food just shows up. So the spectrum of what I'm getting, these students aren't in it to become restaurateurs or chefs or anything like that. They're in it to study nutrition and stuff like that. So understandably, they're not thinking about modern plating on a day-to-day basis. And to be fair, we're also kind of acknowledging our consumer. If it's a working mom with 3 kids, I don't want to make it look like
it came out of Bon Appetit.
Came out of the French Laundry or whatever.
Yeah.
It's got to be approachable. It's got to be something that they can look at and say, yeah, I can do that. So.
Well, Sarah's a Virginia Tech alum. She would love to come by once a quarter and help you style that.
I should give her a call.
Yeah. All right. So you shoot weddings mainly. You've done some excellent food work.
Yeah.
You were in Fredericksburg. You were doing the street photography, and I guess you're doing it in Roanoke now. Plus, all your outdoorsy stuff, man, when you're out there fishing or hiking or whatever. And there's probably other stuff that you do, artsy fartsy shit. What's your favorite? What do you love doing the best?
First thing, I'm gonna need a definition of artsy fartsy shit.
I don't know,
Photography.
just like the stuff that I would want to hang on my wall. I know you got a lot of that stuff. Portraits, headshot, all that stuff that you do. What's your favorite?
I don't know, really know how to answer that question. I think my favorite is whatever I'm doing at the moment. My wife and I just had this conversation the other day. I mean, it would clearly, in terms of social capital, it would behoove me to have a niche and be a little bit more focused. But I've never been that kind of photographer. I've never been that kind of person. I have a lot of varied interests, and I kind of shoot what interests me. If I had to, if you had to press me, I would say people. And that's kind of an easy umbrella to be able to say, oh yeah, well, street photography, there's people in the street photography and portraits and stuff like that. So I do really enjoy being able to mix my hobbies that I already participate in, food. Like I said, I'm cooking every night, and I haven't gotten to that Instagram influencer level where I'm gonna set up a backdrop and a board every night and
Do you want
photograph.
to?
I don't know. The space is so crowded, and
Yeah.
it's not that I can't offer anything. It's just I think part of it is just I'm already doing so much
Right.
that I realize. People ask me all the time, like that. We've talked about it. They're like, do you do video? I'm like, I could do video.
Yeah.
It's a whole other beast.
Are you interested in video?
I love watching videos.
Right.
Like doing TikTok. No, I mean, the short answer is yes, but I like doing things well, and I think a lot of times that's kind of a stumbling block for me. Is that if I don't feel like I can give it enough time or energy, I just don't do it.
I really wanted to get back in. I liked video a lot when I was growing up, and
Yeah.
once I had to start working, I kind of put that aside, and I never
Right.
really focused on it until now. And then I was like, you know what? I want to start teaching for my own, documenting my family for my own purposes. I want to get back into video and figuring out the ways to shoot like the best possible ways I can with the very limited resources that I have.
I saw the video that you accidentally posted to the wrong account.
So that was my first time like doing it.
Doing a great job, social media manager. You were doing a great.
I've got way too many Instagram accounts that I am in charge of at the moment. So I'm lucky I didn't post it to one of the other ones. No, I mean, I want to focus on that. Like, I like photography, but I'm not like, I know that I would not be good at it. I don't have the patience to learn something new right now or the resources to put behind it. So, I mean, I want to focus on learning how to make good, decent videos for my own consumption, my family's consumption.
Yeah. You going to get a Super 8?
No. No. You still selling that Fuji X-T3?
No, I already sold it.
You did?
Got it sold. Yeah. On to the next thing. Give me a year and you'll see me selling a Fuji X-T4.
All right, I'll wait for a year because I want to. If that viewfinder swings out, so I can do it for all my.
For the selfies.
For my podcast intros.
Right. Yeah. No. It comes in handy. It's like. Yeah. I mean, I'm noticing right now. I'm like, where do I look? What am I looking at? Am I looking at you or the green light?
I'm not using this video.
Oh, thanks.
We've referenced so many things. I know you went to all this trouble to light it, but I did not. I look like I'm in a bat cave.
I dressed up like cruise ship Bobby for you.
You've always had the fancy shirts.
This is a direct. Do you not get the reference? You totally remember cruise ship Bobby. What was that one shirt that we all gave you so much?
Oh, I know. I had a coral colored shirt that I would wear, and they called it my cruise ship shirt.
That is kind of circling back to that when I asked you, how you were doing with all this. I loved the camaraderie of working in a school and just having people to shoot the shit with, and it's my wife gives me a hard time all the time. She's like, why are you going to the bank to deposit that check? I'm like, 'cause I'm gonna talk the teller's ear off. That's why we're gonna have a chat. We're gonna exchange phone numbers, and we're probably gonna follow him on TikTok. It's, I'm looking for people to talk to all the time. You know, people think
Yeah.
that
It was
photography is glamorous and you're out doing photo shoots all the time, but it's, 90% of my time I'm sitting with this stuff in the basement of my
yeah,
house
sitting in front of the computer just editing stuff and going through stuff.
and watching a lot of bad Netflix,
Yeah.
listening to a lot of bad Netflix.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, from September to, last month, I guess, it was tough to be stuck here all day, but I felt very focused when I would work on stuff and when
Yeah,
I worked on my own stuff creative wise, but now, I mean, it's completely different. I can't get anything done for
yeah.
myself.
Well,
And I know a ton of other people in the same situation who have young kids. It's just impossible to do anything that you want to do for
yeah,
yourself because you can't. There's other people, there's other humans that depend on you. Plus, my wife being a teacher, she's working as well, so we have to work in these kind of shifts where it's like, all right, at 10 o'clock I have a Zoom meeting, and she's like, well, at 10:30 I have a Zoom meeting. I'm like, well, put a movie on because we both have to do this.
right. Yeah, Lisa
um,
has said no less than half a dozen times in the month that we've been under quarantine that she's so glad that we're not raising small children right now. So
it's I mean, I tell you what, like, I'm fed up. I'm being just completely honest.
yeah, I can imagine.
I'm really like at
I mean, I've
my
met your
at
children;
the
they're wonderful, but uh, eh, all at once,
all
they
at once.
yeah,
One of them's 2, and he's very needy, and the girls are just fighting, and when they're not focused on doing something, it's unbearable sometimes. And I really have a new respect for stay-at-home parents. My mother, who didn't go back to work until I was in high school, and
right,
she had 4 kids, and we were all kind of spaced out, and I was the oldest. So when my youngest brother finally went to school, she went to work. So I understand why she yelled so much when we were growing up. Like, I don't know how stay-at-home parents do it. My hat's off to them. All my respect to them because I don't think I could do it.
yeah,
I
for
just
sure. What are you telling the kids about this?
they pretty much know that it's bad. It's a
Yeah,
bad thing. It's we have to stay away from people as far as 6 feet or more, which is very tough because they have neighbors that they like to play
right,
with. And we do go outside and try to keep them away as much as we can. Like, they sit in their driveway and we sit in ours, and they ride bikes, but they sometimes get too close to each other and we have to say, "Er."
right. Yeah, I
Which
was
is
out on a run the other day, and I saw just what you're describing. These 2 boys were both in their respective driveways doing their best to distance, but
Yep.
they were tossing a ball back and forth
Yeah.
to
Oh,
each
no, I
other,
know.
and
They
it's
do the
like,
same thing. And then
"No."
my dog goes out and then their dog goes out and they play together. And it's like, wait a minute, if you just sneeze down your dog and then my dog touched your dog. And
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's what I'm curious about, like, for the germs, it's so hard to help them conceptualize that,
I
there's
mean, we did the black
virtually
pepper
impossible.
thing, that
Uh,
black pepper thing that was all over social a few weeks ago, where you stick your finger in soap and then you put it in the bowl of water with black pepper in, and all the black pepper flies away from it. They just wanted to play in the water then.
I think you have a few, social channels that I'm probably not tuning into.
TikTok. It's all over TikTok.
Alright.
This is good, man. I like catching up with you. I haven't talked to you in
Yeah, man,
person
hopefully,
forever.
we could, at some point this year, do it in person.
Got to get some more family portraits done at some point.
Yeah.
Are you doing the steps photography, all the front porch photography that you see out there right now?
So I had started to kind of advertise it, and I had a whole bunch of people signed up, and then, the stay-at-home order came down, and I know photographers who are still doing it. I just don't feel comfortable being that guy.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have 2 really lovely neighbors that I care about, just, right up the
Mm-hmm.
street. They're both in their 70s. They're extremely healthy, super fit. they're doing all these great things, but I feel this responsibility to not overly
Yeah.
expose myself or anybody else to things. So
Well, that's good,
um,
man. You're doing your part. You're doing what you're supposed to do. That's good.
it's hard. It's hard. I mean, I'm not doing it perfectly. I
Have you
try.
found yourself relaxing a little bit as time's gone on?
I'm not a good relaxer. I'm doing a lot more running. I got a
No,
lot of
I don't mean that. I mean relaxing the rules. Like, are you going out a little bit more often than you were before?
the only times I'm going out is to run or to hike when know I'm,
Yeah.
not going to be exposed to people.
The reason why I ask is because I think, from what I've seen, I feel like people are kind of relaxing a little bit and getting a little bit comfortable again, which might not be a good thing.
I think it's natural. I think it's going to happen. I mean, I think everything they've been saying about the multiple waves is likely. Try not to be judgmental about it. It's just human nature. We were talking about this the other day, in terms of whether or not we as a society are going to learn anything from this. I'm a dyed in the wool pessimist, so I
Yeah.
could go on and on and on about how I feel about it, but it's just kind of, it's the nature of the thing.
I mean, take a look 10 years from now. We'll look back on it. I'm guessing we'll have forgotten everything that we have learned from it by that point,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But, it's not in our nature to stay home and not socialize. So,
No, I mean, I'm definitely missing the socialization aspect. Having just moved to a new area, I was just kind of getting my feet under me and making some new friends, and
well, you can be friends with the bear.
I could be friends with the bear. We've got this really fabulous running club down here. It's all organized through the local Fleet Feet running store, Fleet Feet Roanoke, and they're just such a positive thing in this community, and they were a positive thing in my life, and I kind of latched onto them very quickly and made a lot of friends, and so we've been able to stay in touch socially in that way. But there's just something to be said about, I'm missing my Tuesday night pub runs. We go to Big Lick Brewing and do a little 3 mile run and hang out afterwards, stuff like that. So
We'll get back there.
yeah, I'm
It'll
definitely looking
it,
forward to that.
it'll come, hopefully, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and so you talk about being an anxious person. Now I'm looking at the long game, and saying, is that brewery going to still be in business? Is
Yeah.
my favorite. It's such a
Yeah.
hard.
I know. The, this is going to sound stupid, but I fully admit that I know how stupid this sounds. But the biggest thing for me, it's really just killing me, is the fact that I might not have a football season this year and watch the Bills. Like,
Well, you know
it's like
what?
it's the only thing that I've had throughout my entire life that I do. Like,
Yeah,
that's my only hobby that I've kept up with my entire life.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw today, but the WWE was
It's
deemed an essential business. So
yeah.
you might be in luck.
All right. I mean, I hope I'm in luck. I hope they are deemed essential.
It might be like a really bizarre scenario where they're just playing games in an empty stadium or something like that. But
I don't want. That's fine. I know you don't care about football, but this is the year Tom Brady is out of the AFC East. The Bills are stacked. They're ready to win the division and go to the Super Bowl. And if there's no football season this year, it might never ever happen, and we'll never know if it would have happened.
don't you feel a little cheap admitting that your team's success is entirely
No,
hinging upon?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. Look, we couldn't beat him the 20 years that he played. So,
Yeah, I
all right.
mean,
You want to say anything else before we wrap this thing up? We've been talking for an hour.
no, it's all good. I
Any
think we
special messages you want to put out there to Sarah or Mimi or Pat or Lori, anybody from the Hamilton Beach days?
had I thought about it, I would have gone to my local TJ Maxx and bought a little green ball to prop up behind me. But
Yeah.
considering you're not going to put the video up
Well,
anyway,
let me ask you this, because it still bothers me.
yeah.
Does it bother you that they're
What?
still using all those photos, like in and we were doing it too, like after we stopped creating new content, we're just, squeezing every last drop out of those photos and putting it up
Yeah.
as if it's new. Does it bother you?
No, it doesn't bother me. I mean, there's a certain degree of, especially in the digital era, once those photos leave,
Yeah,
they're gone.
I know.
They're just, it is what it is. It's just the nature of the thing.
I think what bothers me is that we just put, especially Sarah, she put so much work into coming up with. I know I'm
Yeah.
giving her a compliment. I wouldn't normally do that. No. She put so much work into coming up
I
with the
laughed because
concept.
I actually thought I thought you were about to like, I thought you were about to disparage her.
No, she put so much work into coming up for the concepts and all that stuff, and you came, and Test Kitchen put in so much work to making it look good. I just stood there. I didn't do anything. But like we worked hard to create the content around the photographs, the story behind the photographs. And it just
Yeah.
sucks when you see them like throw it back up there without any, like, they're not doing any of that kind of work. They're just taking everything that we did and just populating it in a different timeline.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I admittedly, because nobody I really worked with is a part of that anymore. I don't pay as much attention to it. So it's
Maybe I should stop. Why haven't I unfollowed them yet? What the hell's wrong with me?
so yeah, so it's kind of, I do see the occasional post, and it's just, the strategy seems to be every once in a while, let's remind people that we're here, and instead of creating
Yeah.
thoughtful.
Well, I hope they get back to it.
I don't think you believe that.
I do. I hope they get back to it, because there's a lot of any food company, any
Yeah,
appliance company.
I believe you hope they get back to it. I don't think you believe it's gonna happen.
I don't know. Who knows? With all this, everything's probably changing.
Yeah.
Anyways, otherwise, are you doing okay? Are you feeling good? You're still running like crazy.
Yeah.
You're
I
eating.
tell people it's gonna be hot boy summer. You might want to unfollow me on social, because it gets desperate enough. It's gonna be a lot of like shirtless selfies and me doing the handstand
You're already
challenge,
getting
where I'm
there.
like putting on my shirt in a yoga.
No, who I started following was your wife, and she's
Oh,
posting pictures of you shirtless.
yeah, she is. Yeah. And then she deletes them. She's a
Oh, I wanted to ask you about the series that you were doing with the recreating old paintings.
Yes. The ideas behind all of those are hers. We kind of hit a snag where where we're having artistic differences.
What?
She's very adamant about choosing things that other people aren't doing, like anything. She's got a couple of qualifications. It has to be like directly related to some kind of like pandemic or plague or something like that, and it also has to be a work of art that not a lot of other people are doing. So
Okay.
So we're in the discovery phase again, trying to find.
Well, I hope you come up
work.
with something else, because you've done 3 so far.
Yeah. And I think we're doing well with them. They're fun, and kind
I
of
like seeing the behind the scenes.
keep the skills sharp, and have a little fun with it.
Where can people find you if they want to look at your work?
AaronSpicer.com is the professional site that'll lead you to commercial work and portraits and weddings, and at Aaron_Spicer on the Insta. I'm not going to direct anyone to my TikTok yet, because I'm still working on the content phase.
I've been doing some TikTok.
I know, I've seen. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a TikTok stalker. I'm not creating yet.
It's my kids.
Yeah.
Really, my 8-year-old. She's all about. Are you looking at TikTok? Can I look? No.
Oh, I mean, do you have a personal one? I follow Caught by Happy. But
Yeah, that's the only one I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe this is a reflection of my maturity level, but I can spend half an hour cracking up at some of these.
Oh God, I love it. I love it. It's so entertaining and also makes me stupid.
It's the perfect amount of time for my attention span.
Yeah.
So.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Yeah. Thanks.
Good talking to you. I miss seeing you. I miss working with you.
Stay well. Hope everything goes well, and keep those kids happy.
All right. All right, that was fun. Great guy, right? Good talk. Great catching up with Aaron. Make sure you check out his Instagram at Aaron_Spicer. or visit his wedding photo site, aaronspicer.com, especially if you're in the Roanoke area and you need some family portraits or headshots or some event photography. If we ever get back to having events again, he does great work and you're going to enjoy your time with him. I guarantee it. All right, everyone, stay home, stay clean, stay safe, hang in there. You guys are doing great. All right. Bye-bye. Caught by Happy podcast is powered by Ring Media. Join the Ring Media Network and let's make good stuff together.